Hi, this is Amedeo Beretta from Animation Pandemic. In this video I'm going to show you how to rig a prop in Maya so that it becomes a bit easier to animate it, especially when constraints are involved. So for this demonstration we're going to use a rig that you can find online for free. The rig name is called the rig name is Rocket Girl, and you can find it on Gumroad. Just Google Rocket Girl rig Gumroad Maya, you will find it. The rig is by Vladimir Morkov and Stefanos Shino. So with the rig you will find that we have a blaster. In fact, there's a file for the blaster and one for the rig. So let's say that we have to animate the girl holding onto the blaster or grabbing the blaster, for instance. So in general I've seen a lot of people just keying the blaster geometry or constraining the blaster geometry to the hand of the character, and while this could work for some shots, it becomes very quickly difficult to maintain animation in a production environment if you just constrain or key geometry. This is a bad idea in many ways, but maybe it's a subject for other videos instead. But let's see how we can rig this prop so that it's easier to animate. First of all, in Maya by default the convention is that controls are made by NURBS curves, so I'm going to perhaps create a NURBS circle as my first control. I'm going to scale it up and I am going to freeze its scale. I'm using my shortcut, but really you can go modify, freeze transformation options and make sure only scale is on there. Okay. If you want to create a shortcut in Maya to your shelf, you just hold down Control Shift while you click on a tool, and that tool magically appears on the shelf. Now I have my control in there. I think it's a good idea to maybe move the gun so that the center of gravity of the gun is more or less aligned with the pivot of the control, so around there. That makes some sense. This is going to be my master control, and then I'm going to duplicate it, Control D on my keyboard, and scale it down. You press R and the scale gizmo shows up. Freeze the scale again, and this control I'm going to call the offset underscore control. You see it's at 0. This guy is at 0 as well, both in translation and rotation. I want this to follow the master control, and then later on you will know why I'm doing that. Okay, so yes, so this I select the smaller control, the offset first, the master next, and I hit P like Papa on my keyboard. And now you see that in there in the outliner the offset is a child of the master. Now if I move the master around, the offset will follow. And either control I select will give me 0, 0, 0 in translation and rotation and 1 in scale. That makes a lot of sense. Now we would like these controls to carry around the gun. The problem is we can't constrain the gun because say they change the gun, the modeling department changes the gun, then this is going to make life really hard on us if we ever need to change the model. But we could group the gun, call this gun underscore geo underscore grp, stands for group, and then we could have the group constraint. So, and it will be constrained to the offset control of the gun. So the offset control is selected first. I hold down Control on my keyboard and I select the gun geo group, and then I do constrain parent. Now if I move the offset, the gun moves around. If I move the master, the offset moves around and the gun moves around too. So now I've made my super basic rig, and you will ask me why two controls. We will see it very soon, I think. And then as a last thing, I perhaps want to have let's say I want to have another control. This time I'm going to create again another circle there, and this time I would like to have a control which is say aligned to the handle, and in a few minutes you will know why this could be useful, let's say. So the pro is that if I rotate the control and place it around the handle and then if I freeze the rotation to get 0 rotation in the channels, now you see that if I go gimbal axis, I'm losing the rotation axis. That's not really useful for animation. I really would like the axis to be aligned to the handle there. So what I can do is, while the control is still at 0 on the grid, I can group it, and instead of moving the control, I will move the group. You see that in my outliner it's the group that is selected, so I will move the group down, place it more or less in the middle of the handle, and rotate the group so that it's aligned more or less around the handle. Now maybe to make this control a bit more recognizable, I will select every other CV, and I will maybe scale them this way, so that even by looking at it, I can tell it's a different control. So now if I select this control, translation and rotation are expected to be at 0, and in fact they are. Why? Because the control is perfectly aligned to the parent master, so the parent master became the center of the grid as far as the control is concerned, so the control is at 0. That means that if we animate it around, we just need to input 0 to make it go back to where it was created. Not bad. I will call this thing hand control, and you will see why in a few minutes again. So now I will just parent this hand control to, let's say, the master control. So the hierarchy would have the master control, which has 2 children, an offset control and a hand group, and the hand group will have a hand control underneath as a child. Okay, we'll probably save this rig. It's a good idea before Maya crashes on me. Now if I grab the master control, everything follows. I grab the offset, the gun follows, but the handle stays there. That's kind of a bummer, I think. So maybe what I want to do in here is, well, I will do it later so that you see why we need this control and how we could improve the situation. But now let's call in Rocket Girl. So I will go File, Create Reference, and in there I'm going to reference Rocket Girl. You might have noticed, some of you might have noticed, I'm not using open to have the girl in the scene. I'm not even using import. In fact, in production, you normally want to reference rigs into a scene, so I'm going to reference it, because referencing rigs, simply speaking, is a bit of a more solid way of working. If I have a referenced rig and I hit delete on my keyboard, can you hear that? I can't delete it. The script editor says no go. And here you will see there's a little gem next to the node. That means I can't delete this either. This is really cool because the file is not actually contained in the file I'm working on, it's just linked to it. Okay, and I can at any time change the rig and maintain the animation. Really good way of working, really. So now I will just place Rocket Girl somewhere near the gun so that we can do some sort of dummy animation there. And I will perhaps make sure that her hand is in IK, so this little control here as the IK-FK switch, and then I will place the hand right there. There you go, where the handle is. I'm using a snapping tool I wrote, but really you can do it manually for the purpose of this exercise. But if you find snapping tools around, use them because they make you spare a lot of time. So let's say the hand is there. Okay, and she has the gun in her hands, everything is fine. Let me just place it a bit better. There you go. Then maybe I'll curl the fingers. Normally I don't really use global control to curl the fingers because I want to control a single amount of curl for each phalanx, but in this case this is not the point of the tutorial. So that's it. So now we have the hand there you go, and the hand is in position. She's got the gun. There you go. Probably it's a good idea to save this scene. Well, I shouldn't be saving onto the rig, but since the Rocket Girl is referenced, I will save on the rig anyway. So now what can we do? Well, one thing that we can do is, for instance, we could constrain this hand controller of the girl to the handle of the gun. Yes, I'm not constraining the gun to the hand of the girl, but the other way around, and I will show you why as well. So this handle here is the master, the control of the hand of the girl is the slave. I'm going to perform a parent constraint. And now to animate the hand around, I only need to use the gun. There you go. Why is this really useful? This is really useful because if I have to aim at any location, I can do that using the gun. So it becomes very easy to track and aim and rotate the gun around its pivot rather than the hand pivot. So it's a lot easier to pose this character this way. A lot easier. Now, the fact that I have an additional offset control allows me to do this as well, if I need to. And that's without having to animate any constraint in there. It's not over here. The fact that I have this little handle control down here allows me to do, lo and behold, this. Right? For free. There is no constraint involved. So I could have an animation where, I don't know, I will raise the gun like that in a James Bond pose, sort of James Bond really, because there you go. And then as the gun goes up, like so, then I don't know, she loses her grip, and I don't know, I can then animate the gun flopping down the other way, like so, more or less. Should have made this offset aligned to the handle. So there you go. There you go. Okay? And I didn't have to animate any constraint at all. It's all a single static constraint, which makes it a lot easier. The other way is, the other reason why this is really cool to have the handle down here, for instance, because I just demonstrated the offset, I realized, is, let's say that the gun is on a table like this one. You can activate the constraint to grab the gun. So this will be your pose from when you're grabbing the gun. Let's say this way. I will set a key on the handle. I don't need my key on the master of the gun anymore, so I will delete it. And now let's say that you want to grab the gun a bit better. All you need to do is grab the handle of the gun, the handle control of the gun, zero out rotation and translation, bam, and you go back automatically to the grip pose. And you have very easy to control animation that works around your object. And you didn't have to do any crazy constraint, switched off and on. Everything is a lot easier. There you go. And that's it really. A lot easier to control. A lot of options, you can do a lot of stuff with this thing, and none of it without having to animate a constraint. So in general, a lot easier. I will remove the rig for a second. So we'll remove the reference. The gun is left alone in the scene. You see the scene is clean. There's a foster parent there which I can remove. And if I need this rig to go back to its default position at 1, I really have not to sweat too much. I have to just zero out translation and rotation, and then just delete all the keys on the timeline, and I'm back to 0. So the philosophy behind this way of rigging is you've got a master that moves the whole rig around, you've got an offset that moves only the prop around, and you have a handle, which is where you will constrain the hand to. And that moves around with the master. Okay, you can even have an additional offset if you want, but it's up to you. Having an offset also allows you to do things like this one, for instance. You move the offset up, and if you need to swing the prop around a different pivot, there you go. You use the master to do it, which is a lot easier, of course. And of course, if I needed the handle to follow in a situation like this one, what I could do is I could duplicate the offset, and just a second, there you go. And this offset I'm going to make, the original offset I'm going to make it a bit smaller, like so, and freeze the scale. And this guy will be, I would call it maybe offset 0.1, while the original offset will become offset 0.2, and offset 02 will become a child of offset 01, and the hand group will go under offset 01. And now what I'm going to have is the ability to A, move an offset up. So imagine that the hand is still constrained to the handle, and I can rotate the whole rig around the pivot, including the hand. So if I need to do something like this, I can do it around the pivot. So I get better arcs. Of course, it depends on the prop really, but this philosophy can be applied to any prop. And then additionally, I can still move the gun around, I can still rotate the hand around the handle. Everything is a lot easier. And in case tomorrow, I don't know, some guy comes to me and says, you know what, that's not a gun anymore, it's, I don't know, an elephant. Well then, all I need to do is to remove this gun from the rig, or just delete it, why not? Call in, I don't know, the donut. Let's say it's a donut, not an elephant, because I don't want to find a model of an elephant. Just dump this donut into the gun geo group, and your rig will work just fine. And if you want the handle of the hand, where you want the hand to be constrained to be better aligned to the donut, not a big deal. You just grab the hand group. I'm going to snap it with my tool, but woo, where is it going? Probably inside the donut. There you go. I will maybe rotate the handle, I don't know, this way for instance, and put it there. And now if I constrain, now the rig is still working, the handle is still at 0 because I'm moving the group, you see. If I call back Rocket Girl for a donut, let's see what she thinks of it. There you go. I will rotate Rocket Girl, say this way, move it down, make sure we are in IK, and I will have her. You see, it's so much faster to work with snaps tools. Maybe I will show a couple of things like those in another video, I don't know. So there you go. So that's my hand there. Maybe, where's the control gone? There you go. So let's say that she's grabbing the donuts, I don't know, like so. Takes forever to pose characters in 3D. So she's grabbing it between the index and the thumb, right? That's it. It's nice, really cool. What I can do in here, I can grab the group of my handle for the donut, align it between the two fingers, like so more or less, and then I'm going to constrain this hand control to the handle of the donut. So the handle is the master, select it first, shift click on the slave, constrain parent. Now look at what I can do. I can move the donut around. I really don't like that elbow, sorry guys. There you go. I can move that donut around. It will rotate around the weird pivot, but you know, I can change that. And best, I can do this. Look at that. For free, no additional constraint. And I can still move the whole, I mean, if I wanted, for instance, to change the pivot of the donut to make it rotate around the finger there, I could move the donut like, I guess so, like so, I guess. Let's see. Yeah, and now I can rotate the donut from this pivot. And again, no constraint, no additional constraint there. Or I could go even crazier. Let's say I want to have the donut to rotate around the wrist. I would put just the wrist of the girl, the control of the wrist around where the master is, and now I can move the donut as if it was the wrist of the girl. Not that you would do it in this, I don't think in this situation you would really want to do something like that, but you know, it's nice to have the flexibility there. So having multiple offsets in a rig really allows you to change the pivot even dynamically, because all this stuff could be keyed, okay? So a lot easier, and I mean, this is priceless really. Really, really priceless. Cool. I hope to have more videos to show you in the future, and I hope to see you soon here. Bye bye!